Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want to introduce Brandon Woodworth and Zach McCombs for this Sonic the HedgeHog movie review. Okay, guys, let's get going.
So if you couldn't tell, this is nothing coherent. We are talking about Sonic the HedgeHog today. I'm very excited to talk about this because...
You gotta go fast.
Yes.
You gotta go fast.
So growing up, I was a Nintendo kid until, Sega was pretty much gone. I had a Dreamcast as a kid, but by that point, I felt like GameCube was on its way out. Nintendo 64 and PlayStation were dominating. So Sonic, to me, was, the background, character. In the 90s, I know that he was obviously a huge deal. And I played the original Sonic the Hedgehog game, and I was like, this is just their answer to Mario. That's how I felt. And I was like, this is fun, but it doesn't have the same vibe for me. But then we got to the 3D Sonic games, like Sonic Adventure and, what's the one on GameCube with the Chaos Emeralds and, is it Sonic Adventure 2?
Well, there's a lot. The Chaos Emeralds become a mainstay of the series.
Because that's around the time that I really became a Sonic fan, was around the time of the Sonic X cartoon. Growing up as a kid, there was a game where, you would play as Sonic, then you played as Knuckles, Tails, you even played as Big the Cat at one point.
That is the first Sonic Adventure game.
Okay. I definitely remember that being my earliest experience then. And I played that, I want to say, on GameCube because they re-released it.
Yeah, Sonic Adventure DX.
Yeah, that's what I played. Sonic Adventure DX is what I played. And I actually really liked it. I didn't know a whole lot about Sonic as a character or anything. I knew to the extent that he was just the video game character that was fast. He was just a blue hedgehog and he was fast. And I was like, okay, that's kind of fun. And then I started to notice parallels to Dragon Ball Z, which was something I really liked. It was 7 Chaos Emeralds. You start to glow gold like a Super Saiyan. I was like, I can get into this. And I liked it. And then I remembered when we had an Xbox 360, there was a Sonic the Hedgehog game about to come out. And we got it, and I was just disappointed with Sonic 06. I think almost everybody is disappointed with Sonic 06. And I kind of just turned myself off to Sonic until they announced that he was going to be in Smash Brothers. And then I was like, okay, Nintendo is putting Sonic in Smash Brothers and I can fight him with Mario. I'm kind of invested again. I remember playing Sonic Heroes a lot. I would say overall I like the character. I feel like some of the games have been a miss for me, but overall I've liked what they've done with him recently. I liked Sonic Mania a lot, and I remember there was Sonic the Hedgehog Episode 4 that came out a couple years back that I liked. And I like his interaction with the Nintendo characters now, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, stuff like that. And I feel like there's a strong enough fan base that the movie was a good idea. So after seeing it, I'm like, I feel like fans of this movie will feel kind of rewarded for sticking by Sonic all these years, despite his ups and downs. So I guess that's just my history with Sonic.
Okay.
So I don't have that much to say about Sonic. I remember Sonic Riders, I think on the PS2.
Yeah, it was on. Yeah, well, it was PS2 and GameCube.
Yeah, we had it on the PlayStation, and that was kind of fun, I guess. I mean, I was super little, and it's probably really bad now.
Oh, I didn't even mention Shadow.
And then Sonic Unleashed,
The werewolf one.
I think we had that one too. And I don't really remember that much, but Sonic's iconic, and that's basically all I got.
So it wasn't until before we were going to see the movie, me and my brother were sitting in the car talking about everything, and I didn't realize my dad was a Genesis guy. He loved. We had an NES and a Genesis, and my dad loved Toad Jam and Earl and a bunch of that other stuff. So of course we had all the Sonic games, played a lot of them. It was that thing of we played them, and then of course they did cartoons for a lot of the old '90s characters. Mario had one, and then most famously was a Sonic show that is still super popular. Sonic the Hedgehog. So that is Sad AM, and that's the show that I think me and my brother were talking in the car, that defines our love for Sonic. It is such a well-produced environment show about freedom fighters trying to just take back what they lost. And it really gave depth to the character of Sonic. And actually had my love for it. Because I didn't think about it until we were talking. I mean, I had all the Genesis ones, skipped then all the way to GameCube, where we got Sonic Adventure DX, Sonic Adventure 2 Battles, Heroes. I think we played Riders. And then when the Wii came out, we got Sonic the Secret Rings. I played them all the way up to Sonic Unleashed, the one you played, and then it was kind of spotty. I played Generations, because that was the one that everyone was like, oh, is it return to form? And then it wasn't until Sonic Mania... No, Sonic Colors and then Mania were the ones I was like, okay, Sonic might be back. But like Sonic 06 sucked, and like...
Yeah, I struggle with that game.
There's a lot of bad ones. And I watched a lot of the Sonic cartoons. I watched The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sad AM, Underground, Sonic X. I've seen a lot of Sonic content, and I didn't realize how much and how like an influence he was in my life until we were sitting in the car before, and we were just listing everything off, and I was like, I really do have an attachment to this character. Not that I love him, but like I understand the lore, and I understand, you know, what we're getting into and what I expect.
Like, and there's such a big world that like I forget how big Sonic actually is.
Yeah.
So when the movie was on its way out, and like we get that trailer,
which we'll move into the marketing. That your first impression of the Sonic trailer.
The very first design of Sonic made me feel awful about everything.
It looked perfect.
No.
There's not a single thing wrong with it. I don't know what you're talking about.
I was so blinded by rage when watching that trailer because my mother-in-law was like, well, Jim Carrey looks good.
Yeah.
And the entire time I was like, I don't care what Jim Carrey looks like. Sonic looks like trash.
Here's the thing. You have to... When you're going to do something like that, and I said this on Facebook on the comment section of comicbook.com because people were talking about the Uncharted movie. I was like, don't do your own thing. Just follow the source material and people will go see it. And I feel like if you can't get the character right, like the design even at the very least, or at least be close enough to be like, okay, we can see you're doing your own spin on it, but not to the point where it's like, this looks nothing like the character, you're going to lose your audience. So I think that like the backlash from it, people were like, oh wow, we have a real problem on our hands. No one's going to see this. I've never seen people just so unanimously be against a movie after a trailer came out. And I kind of agreed. I was like, if you can't get the character's design right, what makes me think you're going to actually tell a proper Sonic the Hedgehog story? It's more than just Sonic can run fast and he fights a scientist. Sonic has certain character traits that people were expecting that I think in the movie they actually do really well. So when I saw the trailer, though, I was like, this is not what I think even the most diehard of fans are going to be okay with. And Sonic has a very passionate fan base.
A little too passionate.
As I've learned since the trailer came out, I was not expecting the backlash to be that bad. I was like, okay, yeah, that looks bad, but I'll probably still see it because I'll see almost anything to support video game movies because I want them to be good. And I had faith that Detective Pikachu would be good, and I saw it and I enjoyed it. And then I had the same thing with this. I was like, I'm going to see it regardless. And I went into it with very low expectations based on the fact that they had to delay the film so long because of people's response to the design. I was like, is there other things going on behind the scenes? Have they changed anything? I kind of doubt that. But the design itself, yeah, I did not like it. And I'm pretty sure everybody can agree with that, except Ryan over here. He's probably the one person disappointed.
I love the long legs.
Yeah.
That shows off his strides.
Gangster's Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, I saw the trailer, that first trailer, and like I said, I was so blinded by rage. I was like, everyone was like, Jim Carrey looks like he's having fun. I'm like, maybe he will. Who knows? I think if you can't nail the design, how do you have me have faith?
Right.
How do you expect me to have faith in anything else?
Right,
How do you
exactly.
take it seriously?
That's the most fundamental part of any sort of source material, I think, when you're adapting it. It's the same with trying to adapt a book. You wouldn't take a character like Harry Potter and then all of a sudden turn him into a thug just because you wanted to have your own take on Harry Potter. You would do Harry Potter. So when you can't even get the way the character looks right, and you have literally hundreds of different games, movies, or cartoons and all of that, you know what Sonic looks like and you know what people are expecting. So it came off as disappointing, and that was just a blatant cash grab off of the name, and it almost felt like this was going to be this decade's like Dragon Ball Evolution or something like that. Or earlier last decade with Avatar The Last Airbender. People were like, this is going to be on that level of you just did not care about the fan base and you were just trying to make a quick buck based off of the name. And thankfully that's not what happened, at least in my opinion.
Now, Ryan, I'd like you to, non-spoilers, give your impressions of the movie.
Honestly, I wasn't... I told Zach we got to see it together, and I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, overall, I didn't know what to expect. Jim Carrey's kind of a wild ball in movies.
Yeah.
And it's hard to take Jim Carrey too seriously. Just, like, he obviously has had good movies, but he does a lot of bad movies. And the problem is, like, I was so worried with this and with all the hiccups they've already had that it was just... I had pretty low expectations coming in. But honestly, I really enjoyed it. I came out, I mean, I would watch it again. Not in theaters, but I would definitely, if someone's like, hey, you want to watch that? Give me a few months, but yeah, I'll watch it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. Not to talk too much more about spoilers or anything, but, I mean, it definitely caught me by surprise, and I just looked up, and they've already made like $57 million.
It has the 50...
It took number one.
It'll be the number one video game opening of all time.
Yeah.
It's projected
to
to make...
That's crazy to me. I mean, there's not that many video game...
Well, good,
movies,
but the only other good video game movies is Detective Pikachu, and then you can start debating some of them for nostalgia, because Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, I mean, those are the only other ones that people kind of debate.
I think those are more of a cult following. At this
But
point,
yeah, I wouldn't argue they're good. I would argue that, I mean, watching them when they're a piece of time. Like, some people now like the Super Mario Brothers movie, but more so of, like, just watching what it is, but none of them are reviewed well.
Right.
So these are the current two that are straight adaptations of video games. That
animation, I thought, looked really good.
I thought Sonic looked really
Sonic
good.
looked good.
And I thought Jim Carrey's performance was pretty good. There's, I'm not going to go into details just yet, but there's a few things I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of annoying or whatever. But honestly, I didn't really have any big hiccups with it, which I thought I was going to.
No.
Even the problem on why his situation and the circumstances and all that. I mean, honestly, who's the cop?
James Marsden.
James Marsden.
Yes.
That was my biggest concern. I have never really cared for him as an actor, and I thought he's always just been kind of okay. But I was pleasantly surprised.
And he did, I thought he did.
Really well.
I thought he did pretty well. And you have to
Especially
understand,
because like he's basically acting next to almost nothing probably, because that CGI next to him.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's kind of what I was saying, is he had really good acting. I mean, because half the movie he's with them, like,
and that's
on their adventure.
And that's the thing I want to talk about. I want to shout out. He was in another movie called Hop, which is a lot of the same premise, just no named character.
Yeah.
But the problem that they've had with these characters come to the real world is you don't deal with the character of like Sonic or the Smurfs or Alvin and the Chipmunks. You deal with the human.
right.
But this movie finally did that, and it was about Sonic.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a little dilemma that we won't talk about, but there's a little dilemma the character has with trying to make a decision, but it's not one that drives the plot. The plot is driven by Sonic.
Yeah.
And I think that's, granted, I would not do it this way. I would have 100% had kept it back in Sonic's world, because the plot there is super interesting. And Sonic's world coexists with the humans. They've
already opened that up.
Yeah, and now in the new canon, they're like, the humans just accept Sonic and is like, but that's whatever. But what we have here, though, I think that's the biggest advantage this movie has, is that it doesn't focus on the humans. Is that Sonic, after Sonic is introduced, well, Sonic is from the beginning, but there's a little bit of time where you meet Robotnik and you meet James Marsden. But after that, it is all Sonic. The only time we are cut away is it's no single human. It is, I mean, we cut away to Robotnik, which is fine, because you got the villain, but it's always focused on Sonic.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest advantage this movie has over some other video game adaptations, or any adaptation. And there's like a video or an image posted like Yogi Bear, Rocky and Bullwinkle, all these other ones that steal this idea, but they're not focused on those characters.
Right. It's like, we're going to throw this character in there to get you to come see it, and then we're going to have our own spin on like a family drama or something with that character involved. And it's like, that's cool to get people in the door, but people want to see that character. That's why they're there. I could watch any movie about people going through problems. I want to see Sonic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree. I think that was the step in the right direction.
Ben Schwartz does awesome as Sonic.
Yeah.
I was really worried because I love Robert Clark.
Yeah,
And,
I felt like his voice
Joe
was
White.
great for Sonic.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was just listening to Sonic. I didn't think that his voice was annoying or disparaging or anything like that. I was
for a character that talks a lot,
Yeah.
I was glad that he got to the way he portrays Sonic really works.
Yeah, like, and I feel like he captures the personality of Sonic really well. I was like, this feels like the Sonic from the cartoons that I watched as a kid, or the Sonic that would crack jokes in the games and stuff.
Right,
and
that's what I was talking about. So my wife didn't like this movie.
Yeah.
Which, I get it, it's a kid's movie. And I think that needs to be our first and foremost thing, is this movie is not made for us. It's not made for the older demographic.
No.
It is made for 10-year-olds.
Right.
But, as a Sonic fan, you can appreciate
Right.
what it is and, like...
If you grew up knowing who Sonic is, there's a very good chance you're going to like this movie.
Right, and I kind of want to see it again in theaters just to watch. Because the third... we'll talk about it later, but the third act, I think the entire action sequence from when everything starts to go down, I loved all of that.
The running and everything.
All of, the battle between him and Robotnik. I genuinely enjoyed all that.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
And so, I think this movie has so much good... I wish there was just a little bit different with the human aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, for what the movie is and what we got, I genuinely liked it.
I think the jokes for a kid's movie, for the most part, land. I think Robotnik is actually really funny. In the
Yeah,
movie.
I mean, my wife was like, well, here's something I didn't like. And I was like, that's fair, but I mean, it's a kid's movie. She's like, the fish on my head joke didn't really work. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, there were some kids in our theater laughing at that. So I was like, it wasn't directed towards
kids
us.
Kids are going to laugh at things that they don't
Yeah,
watch.
and they talk about in comedies, they're like, the goal is for 60% of the jokes to land. They'll throw as much as they can, and if you laugh 60% of the time, they've nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely felt that way. There were parts where you and I would chuckle, and I was like, yeah, that was a funny joke. Or I would notice an Easter egg reference to Sonic's either character or his world, and I was like, all right, that's pretty good. These people actually took the time to craft out a story that people who know Sonic are going to appreciate, but also have enough jokes in there, I think, for a general audience to not dislike the movie.
Right. And I think all the humans, all of them do great.
Yeah, I don't think there's
a really bad performance. And I mean, there's only 3 main humans and then some sides.
Yeah.
Because there's the sister-in-law, which I think does fine. I think her jokes are...
Yeah, her jokes...
it's a little over the top, but
I think her jokes were probably the funniest just because it's that would be my reaction in this situation.
But... I mean, overall, though, so we'll do closing thoughts and then move into spoilers, because there's some things small, minor things I'd like to talk about, but I think Jim Carrey nails it. He feels like the 90s Jim Carrey.
That's what I told...
The Mask and Ace Ventura.
Yeah, I told my mom that because I was talking with her earlier today, and she was like, so how'd you feel about Sonic? I was like, it was good. And she was like, I saw the trailer for it, and I thought it looked great. And I was like, well, let me show you what Sonic originally looked like. And she goes, this is terrible. And then I was like, but let me show you, the newer trailer and all this stuff. She was like, I'll probably go see that. And I was like, that's cool.
And the other thing, too, before I forget, Mr. Robotic, he's fat. He's...
Right.
Well, and we'll
Yeah. And, but honestly...
I'm willing to give that a pass.
Yeah. But
because Jim Carrey's a huge physical body actor. So having him lug around in a fat suit or something would be probably difficult for some of the scenes that he's in.
Yeah, I just remember people were complaining. Well, besides the whole animation crap.
Well, how he looks, yeah. But I mean, which we'll talk in spoilers.
Honestly, I didn't mind it though.
Yeah.
No.
Well, but I mean, okay. So are we wanting to do a score, or are we wanting to just? How about this? No score. I would recommend seeing it. I think it's worth seeing in theaters. I think it is one of those that if you have kids, this is a definite see. Take them to see it as soon as you can. I think kids will love it. But I think for me, as a fan of Sonic, and I'm going to stress that enough because if people don't like it, I don't want to hear about it. As a fan of Sonic, I genuinely enjoyed it. As somebody who wants video game movies to do well, I definitely recommend you see this in theaters.
Yep. I would agree. I would say this is definitely, if I had to go thumbs down, thumbs up, or thumbs in the middle, I'd say this is definitely pointing towards the up direction for me. It kind of goes here and there for you guys. They can't see it, but I'm like, it teeter-totters a little bit from middle to up. It's kind of in between. I know we're not saying a score, but I have my number in mind. But
I'll give it an 8.
It's a recommend.
I'll give it an 8.
I mean, if we're putting a number, I mean 7.5 is like.
I was going to say 7.
Yeah.
But
For a kids movie, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I did too. And that was not. We'll save that for a different time.
Anyway,
so there
So
are
our overall score is 7.5. Woo!
But hold on, wait. There's one mid-credit scene to make sure you stay. Which then there's spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So the Robotnik thing about him not being fat.
Yeah.
Well, he also has hair, which is another problem. He also doesn't have the full mustache, which in the after credit or in the first. Not after credit, but like that.
It's like right before the credits roll.
Yeah, he starts to become that. So everyone thinks he's going to eat the mushrooms to survive
And get really fat.
and get fat.
Oh,
well, Robotnik isn't like a fat guy. He's just got a gut, and then like his legs are like just long and so on. It's like it's an egg shape. Well, his upper half is like an egg shape.
Sort of, yeah. His gut,
which is where
sure.
Eggman comes from.
But Sonic already called him Eggman.
Right, he was calling him Eggman because of his drones being in like the shape of
now
an egg.
there is a bunch of controversy. They don't like Sega doesn't like the name Robotnik. They've hated it. They've basically kind of started to like erase it from the canon of Sonic, and now he's called Dr. Eggman. Yeah. So they've changed now, so he'll be called Eggman because it's an insult from Sonic.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of drama just not liking the name Robotnik, even though it's so much cooler. Like
Dr. Robotnik sounds like a sinister, evil name, and it's like Eggman.
But Tails showing up was not included in the original cut. So everyone who's like, what did he originally look like? Didn't exist. They said
Thank God.
They said that after the backlash, they needed just a little bit extra to get the fans to be like on their side. So they did Tails, and dear Lord, does he look good?
Yeah, Tails looks great. Like we actually saw an early leak of that.
Yeah, which I wish I had because that scene like in our theater popped really well. Where like a lot of kids were like Tails, and me and my brother was like, oh my gosh, they have Tails.
See, I was like. Kind of hoping for Knuckles,
but
Tails comes first.
But Knuckles is a villain.
Knuckles is a villain.
But I have a lot of ideas for a sequel. Mm-hmm. Is that I think it opens with the Ken does fighting Sonic's mother.
That's what I thought.
Adopted mother, which she was not dead. There's no way she's dead.
Yeah. Well, like when he's like leaving, they show like one of them looking in, and they put their hand on the windowsill to come in, and you see the spikes on their knuckles.
Well, they all echidnas have that.
And I was like, those are echidnas. That's that's what's going on.
Well, when they did the back shot and they're red, me and my brother were like, I was like,
this must be the echidnas because. And I thought maybe on some level they were going to be hinted at more towards the end. They weren't, obviously, but like. I thought that, like, they did really well just keeping it between Sonic and Robotnik. They didn't try to set up anything in case they don't really do
well, but then they do set... I mean,
they do set up another
with,
like,
Robotnik's still alive and Tails is
right, but it's like, you could say this is a one and done minus the last, like, 30 seconds of the movie, and it'd be like, this is its own thing. Sonic gets to stay on Earth with this new happy family he has, and everything's all good.
Now, I'm glad they did not do Super Sonic, because it would have broken the lore. Mm-hmm. Super Sonic, that yellow form, that Super Saiyan, exists because of the Chaos Emeralds, which is Knuckles protects them. Mm-hmm. When Sonic has all 7, him and Shadow can both go Super Saiyan. And so I was really worried that when they showed those trailers of him with the lightning... that was actually not like an unfinished version of it where it was going to have him be yellow, and I was like, don't.
Yeah.
The lightning thing is also new, I think.
As far as I know, but I'm not...
I mean, it makes the speed he goes at makes sense that he could produce lightning fly. I mean, that's like Flash's rule.
On the highway, when he does the spinning attack, like...
Oh, the spin dash. Well, that final scene where he's bouncing off a Robotnik, I love that.
Really
great.
All
of the race, from the minute he kicks them off the building on, I was like...
Yeah. I was not expecting Sonic to do that either. Like, to get out of that, I was like, he's going to just pick them up and they're going to run.
Yeah.
He pushed them off the building. I was like, that's actually really smart. Like, because he can clearly get down there in enough time to catch them or whatever. And I was like, all right, I like this. Like, it kind of gives me hope to see a Flash movie because, like, I know we're going to get one eventually.
They've been working on it forever.
But it's like, I've always wondered how they could do one character with super speed in an entire film because... You're going to have your set piece where everything's slowed down and the character's running through really fast because they've done it with Quicksilver now in the MCU, and then they did it with him in the X-Men movies, and now Sonic's had 2 scenes like that, and I was like, these worked fine for what it was. And I'm like, obviously, if they ever do a Flash movie, they're going to do a scene similar to that, just showing...
Well, and I mean, they kind of did in Justice League.
But, like... It's at the point now where I'm like, I can accept that that's how they want to show super speed as a power. And I thought that Sonic did it really well. Lore things that I thought were good for Sonic. There's a scene with a turtle where Sonic like saves this turtle from like being out in the road.
that was a good joke. I love that. The turtle's like shaking afterwards.
Right, because he's just running so fast. And but I was like, that's a really good reference because Sonic always has cared deeply about animals. And I was like, that's great that they actually had that in there. Sonic makes a reference to getting a chili dog. And I was
he used that chili dog in the fart joke.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And I was like, well, I mean, that's kind of what Sonic does. He likes chili dogs.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the most negative thing is that entire bar scene I didn't really care for.
Yeah, it kind of goes a little long, but then when the fight starts, I'm like, all right, yeah.
I mean, I was like, I enjoyed that scene, but I was like, I don't know if it was worth the entire 10 minutes we spent here.
Yeah. And I was just like, okay, like, let's move a little bit more, or let's get to Robotnik, because every time Jim Carrey was on screen, I was having fun. Like, I was already having fun, but I felt like it was a return to form for Jim Carrey.
I do feel like, and maybe somebody will disagree with me, I feel like Jim Carrey 90s is probably the best Carrey.
Yeah, I agree.
There's...
Like, I did feel like his dancing scene went on a little too long.
Well, I would have been okay with that entire weird scene if he had played, like, Robotnik's theme from the games.
Yeah.
If it had been more, like, dab in the moment that they play, like, something like that, but...
Right. And at different points in the movie, they play some classic Sonic music, not as much as I'd like.
Right, and there's a few times here and there where it's like, it wouldn't have taken away from playing. Like when Robotnik comes into Green Hill Zone, or Green Hills, like through the portal, when he's coming in really slow, that would have been awesome to play Robotnik's theme.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, just do any of that, or something where it's like, because it doesn't take away from somebody who doesn't know.
Right, but for people who know...
Yeah, it's like, like when the Sonic Green Hill Zone theme plays at the very end.
Yeah, I got really happy.
I know, I was like, that's really cool. But I mean, like, it doesn't take away from somebody who doesn't know the
because
lore.
it's a part of the score, like, of the games or of just the world. And, like, for me, I was like, Robotnik was a lot of fun because a lot of his stuff was great. Like, I love the line that he says to his assistant, "Of course I love your lattes. I love the way you make them." And I was like, just the way he said it, I was like, this is just really fun. Like,
I like the orphan joke better. When him and James Marsden are arguing, he's like, I was breastfed. He's like, oh, the thing you rub into my orphan face.
Yeah, that was really funny too. And I was like, Jim Carrey is clearly having fun. Like, it was something else to watch. Just Jim Carrey just go full nuts with a character again. Like, on the same level of, like, how he would do with, like, The Mask or Ace Ventura, where he's like, alrighty then! Like, that sort of deal. Like, if you like old Jim Carrey, I think you're going to like his performance. Like, and he was the part of the movie on the trailer, apart from Sonic's design, in the original trailer with Gangster's Paradise playing, where he's talking to that soldier, and that scene just felt like it was dragging. I was like, oh no, they're fitting to drag Robotnik. Like, Jim Carrey's going to try his best, but, like, it's not going to come out well. And then it did fine. I'm glad that people are seeing this movie, and I love that the internet is rallying behind the Sonic the Hedgehog movie because the studio listened to the audience. Like, I see a lot of people just on the internet being like, go see Sonic the Hedgehog. You all wanted them to redesign the character. They did. You should hold up to your end of the deal. Yeah. And I think that that's great because, like, it shows that a studio is willing to listen, and I think that's the big thing to take away from this movie.
And I'll let Ryan we can end with your impressions of if there's anything you want to talk about or anything you felt like stood out to you.
I think you guys have mostly hit most of it. Overall, I think it was a fun movie. Definitely more of a kids themed movie. Obviously, I don't think it hit as much in the nostalgia. Now, I don't know Sonic as much as you two, but you had a little bit of nostalgia, but just from what I remember of Sonic, obviously I think you hit it on the head. If it had a little bit more of the theme music throughout it, it would have been kind of interesting because a lot of these kids have never played Sonic. Watching it, I'm sure, but they may be getting introduced to it at the same time, and I'm sure they're going to have more games come out probably pretty soon.
Right, and they're always, I think it's like every year, and a lot of kids in our showing, a lot of kids knew who Sonic was. They were all taught. We were listening to kids just talk.
He's almost a Nintendo mascot at this point.
Yeah, somebody texted me and they're like, they're building a Nintendo universe. I'm like, Sonic's not Nintendo. And they're like,
right.
Really?
Well, no, because the meme on the internet is Smash Brothers Cinematic Universe because they did Detective Pikachu. Now they've done Sonic. When are we getting either Mario or Legend of Zelda, which if that was something that was actually happening, just somehow.
You know we're getting a Mario movie.
Yeah, I know we are.
Okay.
Like, I know we're getting an animated Mario movie, and I'm like, that sounds really fun to me. Can we get a Smash Brothers movie? Question mark? Because I thought that Sonic was good, and I thought Detective Pikachu was good. I think the future is bright for video game adaptations if this is the standard we set. Because they can either meet this level, or they can go beyond that, which means they're only going to get better.
Yeah, and I'll bring this to a close here, unless there's any other thoughts of that. If you complained on the internet about Sonic looking bad, I mean, I feel like it's your God-given, American-given obligation that you have to go see this movie.
Keep your word. If you were one of those people who was like, this is bad, and you were like, I don't plan on seeing it because the design is bad, and they listened to you, and they redesigned the character, I feel like you owe it to them and yourself to see the movie, because it's actually good.
Yeah. I feel like it's good enough, and that's what it needed to be. It's while I would have liked some other stuff, it's okay with a first outing to be this good.
Yep.
Now, granted, if Sonic 2 is just terrible and just craps all over the legacy and doesn't expand on it, and it's just Sonic and Tails doing the same thing they did in this movie, then of course you can complain about it. But at this point, I feel like it is your obligation to see this movie. And I mean, it's already broken the video game record. So I mean, I have no doubt that in a week or two we'll hear potential green lighting Sonic 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's it from us for this one.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this
Right.
sequel to it. I think they opened enough where I'd be
I want to get to
interested
Shadow
in
the
it.
Hedgehog where we have hedgehogs running around with guns, man.
Well, they won't do that.
Aw.
'Cause nobody liked that Shadow.
So.
So that's it for this episode. So we have a few things to plug here at the end. Make sure you're subscribing to us on YouTube. We're trying to get everything uploaded there. SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Music, Google Play. iHeartRadio, we're on that as well. Nothing Coherent on Twitch, and Jittery Jackanape on Twitch. Nothing Coherent, all one word, no capitalizations. Jittery Jackanape, figure out how to spell it.
It's all lowercase. It's
Facebook,
fine.
Twitter, Instagram. Thank you for listening to this episode. Give it a share. Please see Sonic the HedgeHog.